keep refreshing it until I see it.
Okay, well, let's see if anybody shows up. Oh, hey, I actually see somebody here.
Nice.
It looks like Morgan, my brother. How are you?
All right.
Shout out to the designer of one of my favorite shirts that I'm currently wearing. Morgan is on the call.
Morgan,
I'll make a shout out later if more people show up for you.
Brilliant.
Okay, it is broadcasting. So we are live on Facebook right now. Hello, Facebook people.
Hey, Facebook. Okay.
How are you? For anyone who is watching, now would be a great time to start thinking up questions that you have. Questions about NLP, questions about hypnosis, questions about me and my personal life, if you give a crap. Questions about life in general. Questions about why I sound like I am going through puberty right now. Hormone replacement therapy, that's the answer.
Yes, it's very effective. Transitioning.
Yeah.
Okay, I am sharing to all of the pages. This is like in my music world where when you're like tuning the guitar and it's not the most exciting thing that anybody can ever experience unless
Yeah, but you got to do it before the show can start.
Some people are better at that, like doing things at once and telling stories.
I can tell a story. Can I tell an awesome story that happened yesterday?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, so I actually already told you this story, but I'm going to tell it again. So yesterday, my son, Pierce, did something that made me extremely proud. He, about 6 months ago, I was talking to him about homework. We were on our way to school. He's in the back seat, I'm driving. And I said, Pierce, when you've got something hard to do, sometimes you don't want to wait. You don't want to put it off until the last minute. And I said, actually, there's a book about this called Eat That Frog. And if whoever's listening, haven't heard of that book, it's by Brian Tracy, and it's about procrastination and different ways to handle it. And one of the things he says there is that if you have to eat a frog, it's not going to be a good experience no matter when you do it. Like eating a frog is not going to be a fun thing to do. So if you've got a frog to eat and a cake to eat, if you eat the cake first, the problem is you don't really enjoy the cake because the whole time that you're eating the cake, you're thinking about the frog that you have to eat. So the very simple message of the book, Eat That Frog, is if you got something tough to do the tough thing first. Get it done, because then you have a feeling of satisfaction and completion, and then you do the easy thing next. So I mentioned this about 6 months ago, and my son, after doing his homework very quickly and without complaining or anything, being very focused, brought his homework over to me and he said, hey, Dad, do you remember that book you told me about the frog and eating the frog? And I was like, yeah. And he said, I did the lesson, that book. I did what that book said. I did my math homework first because this was the frog. This was hard. And I saved my writing homework because that was the easy part. And I said, how did it work? And he said, it worked really, really well. And I felt so like just this sense of like I saw him grow up in that moment. I saw him like thinking about his life and like solving his own problems and being like, I gave him a tool. I didn't twist or manipulate or try to push him into it. I just said this metaphor about eating a frog. And 6 months later, he was like, I wonder if I could do that. And it seems to me that there's a valuable lesson in there about how anyone can genuinely influence another person. And I will also point out that I have gone out of my way in the last 24 hours since this happened to positively reinforce that experience, not just the experience of eating the frog, but the experience of listening to my advice. The experience of taking something and thinking it through and applying it on his own and coming back to me. And I've gone out of my way to actually talk about this in front of him in several different circumstances because I'm so happy that it happened, and I want to use pleasure to reinforce behaviors, big behaviors, not just little homework things like good job, you got your homework done. That's good. But there's something even bigger. There's a meta lesson here that I'm trying to reinforce. And so that was a really valuable and an awesome experience that I had.
That's amazing. That reminds me of when I first started learning this stuff. I tell people that before I trained in NLP, I was utilizing it casually for about 12 years.
Yeah.
One of the first concepts that I learned was how we can train ourselves and train other people. And this positive reinforcement thing, huge. When people do things that are small that you like, and you find ways to reinforce it, to make doing what you want them to do the most exciting thing that's ever happened, they'll keep doing the stuff you like.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
No. But you also somehow your audio went like, and you froze for a minute.
There is a kind of stinginess that almost all of us are trained to operate under when it comes to pleasure and approval and positive reinforcement. We are stingy with others in giving them approval, especially the closer they are to us. The closer they are to us, the more we look at them and instinctively we go, well, they just did something good, but there's this other thing over here that I know they're still doing. And if I give them positive reinforcement for this thing that they just did that was good, I'm implicitly saying that this other thing is acceptable and it's not acceptable. So I'm only going to give them a little bit of approval and just be like, good job. You did good. Fine.
Yeah.
And nowhere do we do this more than with ourselves as well.
Absolutely. So let's backtrack slightly.
Yeah.
Those of you who are here, we're excited to be spending time with you. I'm Adrianne Gunn, and we're here with Nicholas Rave, who can also say his own name if you like.
I am Nicholas Rave, and I can say my own name. Yay! And this is How to NLP Standing Up, where two weirdos get on here and offer our experience, wisdom, and insights on how you can better integrate the skills of NLP and hypnosis into your life. And we're going to do that by answering questions. And it looks like we've got some people on here. There's Bruce. I see Bruce and Morgan and Ted. And
Bruce is here.
Yeah, I know. I'm wondering, is this the Bruce that we lost in Washington, D.C. and we haven't seen in a while? Because if it is, welcome back, Bruce.
He's a ninja.
Yeah.
Bruce.
I was a little worried you got, like, I don't know, assassinated or something in D.C. It's
challenging there. There's a lot going on. I've heard a couple things. How
about Facebook? Do we have people dropping in on Facebook? Can you see?
We have 2 views. No one live there at the moment, but they will be.
All right. Well, let me throw out anybody who is listening or watching right now. Please take this opportunity to start thinking of questions. Allow your unconscious mind, maybe even, to bring to mind thoughts that you've had, that you've been like, I wonder about that. Insights that you would like clarification on, challenges that you have struggled with maybe for a long time or maybe only once in a while that you'd love to throw out and get some mastermind brainstorming on, because that's what we're all here to do.
So I have a couple thoughts that could be fun.
Shoot.
You and I know how powerful NLP and hypnosis is. I think it could be fun to talk about a list of. I was exposed to this kind of stuff from a stage hypnotist in Vegas. I don't know if there's anything that can be more demonstrative of the power of these tools than someone who can make magic out of how our bodies and our unconscious minds work. And so do you have a list of the kinds of things, like I'm talking the big magical, the tools that are more showy, like a list of some of the awesome things you've seen people shift or be able to do with our minds.
Wow.
Right?
Good God. I love it when you ask questions that I don't know what they're coming. That's awesome. So the question is, what are some of the showier techniques?
Yeah, like the
NLP
showroom thing. You've got
hypnosis?
the Rolls Royce rolling in the middle of the
So
scene.
the intention being, you want to be able to do something like, I'm thinking from the listener's perspective. The listener is asking this question or wondering this question because if they get some of these showy techniques, they can use them and demonstrate. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, or even it's like the performer jumping up and singing the hardest song to sing ever to show people what's possible. So
Okay.
some of the stories of massive shifts of utilizing these techniques, we know like phobias, PTSD, stuff like that, but you probably have some examples of things that people may or may not be aware are issues that can be dealt with.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so first thing I'm going to say is that I view NLP as an incredible set of principles and tools that are, from my perspective, in support of hypnosis and not the other way around. A lot of people that I know of think of hypnosis as one of the tool sets in the toolbox that is NLP. I see it the other way. I see NLP as like training wheels to help you become more like Milton Erickson in a shorter period of time and be able to get those kinds of results. So I'm going to jump to it and say there's a story I heard long time ago about one of my NLP teacher's father. So my NLP teacher, Dr. Matt James, his father, Tad James, apparently after getting his Master Practitioner or Trainer certification from Richard Bandler, went up to him at a party and he said, you know, sometimes, Richard, I have the sense that you invented all of NLP just so that you could avoid ever having to do a formal trance induction. In other words, for those of you who don't know what he meant by that, in other words, he wanted to be able to do hypnosis without having to do hypnosis.
Right. Okay.
And apparently, Richard turned around and looked at him and kind of got in his face and was like, "Don't you ever tell anybody that that's what I was doing." So all that to say,
right,
hypnosis is the first and end because first of all, no one knows what the fuck NLP is. Nobody knows what it is, and frankly, no one cares unless they're already an NLP geek. Nobody cares about NLP. They don't know what the words mean. They're not looking to try to and so you've got an uphill battle to start with, but everybody knows what hypnosis is.
Okay.
Everybody has heard that word. Everybody already has an internal representation of what it means. And a lot of people even have a little bit of fear and trepidation about it.
Because it's
so
word magic.
You just go right to that. You're going to instantly have people who are both simultaneously repelled and drawn to the whatever it is that you're doing if you're using hypnosis. So big picture, hypnosis. Do hypnosis techniques. Second thing, headaches. And hypnosis is the best way that I know how to do it because when I do headache work with hypnosis, what I do is different every time. Morgan, do I have permission to tell a story about you and the way that you told me you work with headaches? Because I think that I have built a radar in my head so that as I'm walking around in life and I hear the word headache, I'm like walking this way doing something and I hear headache and I'm like, boy, and I'm like, oh yeah, headache? You have a headache? I'm like a trained monkey. Like that is the go-to because you can make them. So let's chunk up on that.
That's hilarious. This is one of the first
Headache.
things too for me.
Headache is pain control. So one of the flashiest, showiest, craziest, most convincing thing that you can do with hypnosis or NLP is pain control. Any kind of pain control. And headaches are just like one that everybody has an experience of what it's like to have a headache and not be able to get rid of it, and to just have the experience of like, you have a headache. Would you like to get rid of it? I'm a hypnotist. People are like, what? Hypnotist? Headache? What? That doesn't even make, okay, fine. And then 30 seconds to 2 minutes later, Morgan said yes. So my recollection, Morgan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have gotten to the point now where you've tried a lot of different methods of getting rid of headaches. I think you said the same thing about sneezing too. You said that you do this with sneezing, where at some point you just get permission. It's like the Ellman induction. For any of you who know who Dave Ellman is, if you haven't read this book, it's one of the best books ever written on hypnosis. So Dave Ellman was very big on the idea that you're looking for a moment, you're looking to create a moment when the client, the subject, gives control over. And it's an illusion. It's not really happening, but it's a thing that you're playing. And when that experience happens, he was like, you don't need a trance voice. You don't need magical words. There are things that encourage the process of hypnosis, but it really is about a contract. It's about an agreement that you set up between you and another person. And when you get that permission, you're like, hey, would you like to see what hypnosis can do? Do you have a headache? Would you like the headache to go away? I'm a hypnotist. Would you like the headache to go away? Okay, all I need to do is ask you this question. Do you want to be hypnotized? Yes. Do you want to be hypnotized by me? Good. And then my recollection with Morgan is that he's gotten to the point now where all he does is just eye contact. You just hold eye contact, and then the headache can go away. And sometimes you got to say something. That's why I like to do it with hypnosis, because it's different. It's flashy. You can go in and be like, so just tell me when it's totally gone now. And notice, okay, so I'm going to break this down, okay, because I'm not trying to do this. This is different than if I was actually showing off. I'm trying to teach y'all how to do this. So one of the keys is look at my eyes right now. Look at the muscles around my eyes, okay? And then when I start to go into that, look at the difference there. Did you see what happened to these muscles? These muscles got more relaxed. This got a little bit wider. And then there's, how do I describe this? I'm trying to model it while I'm doing it. So there's a depth, there's a dropping of the breath that happens in my body. And there's just a relaxing of everything. I mean, here's what it is. Go into trance. Establish rapport, and then go into trance yourself. And when you drop into that space, one of my favorite things to do, I learned this from my first NLP teacher, my first hypnosis teacher too, that he would do this eye thing where he'd like get everyone, he's doing this with a group, and he'll get everybody's attention, everybody's looking, and then he'll blink his eyes really slowly, just like that. Because if you're watching, you're all of a sudden like, what? So there's all kinds of ways that in an instant or in a few moments, you can grab somebody. So when it comes to showy, it's about a before and after. That's what you want to be thinking about, is what's something where there's a before picture and an after picture, and they're dramatically different. You can't have a showy weight loss session.
No.
Because they're going to come in, they're going to come out, and they may feel totally differently. They may be totally different inside, but the external hasn't caught up to the internal changes yet.
This is funny. When I learned NLP and hypnosis initially, in this short duration. I was 19. This hypnotist brought up headaches, and I got really excited about that.
It was Marshall Silver, right?
Marshall Silver.
Did he have hair back then?
He did. He had hair back then.
I knew him back when he had hair too, but he hasn't had hair in a long time. Like his character now is about that shaved head.
Nice. Well, so Morgan's mentioning hiccups, and I remember Marshall Silver telling an amazing story about when he first learned hypnosis and NLP, being pulled over by the cops. And
oh God.
Breaking the
wait. Just to say, for anybody listening, we are not advocating hypnotizing police.
His point was that there are people who are expecting specific responses. And one of the things that you can do to quickly put someone in trance is to break their expectations. And so there was someone, I was in a work environment, sort of lunch, and there was somebody who had hiccups. Really loud, really irritating. Like some people have the strange sneezes and hiccups, and this hiccup was like, it was like pterodactyl hiccups, and they'd been going for about 2.5 minutes, and so everybody was trying the normal things, right? You want water?
Hold your breath, spoonful of sugar,
that sort of thing.
Drink water upside down.
I had been sitting quietly in the corner, kind of steaming, because I'm sound sensitive, so weird sounds. It's a trigger that I've worked on and released. But at this time, I was like, okay, I know exactly what to do. So I got incredibly calm. And so I was kind of across the room. I leapt up onto the table. It was a sturdy table. And I slammed the table in front of her. And I said, if you don't stop now, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Oh, my God.
The room got really, really silent, and the person's like, and then I just calmly, just like, the same eye contact, just held my position. The hiccups are gone, aren't they? And she's like, oh my God. And everybody was like, what just happened? And then I just calmly went back to just eating in the corner, no explanation at all.
That is some goddamn behavioral flexibility right there, Adrianne.
It's possible that I like drama. I like drama.
Well, it reminds me of, as far as a pattern interrupt or a state break.
Right.
This is a fun story that I'll throw out as another bonus for anybody interested. Darren Brown, I'm sure all of you know who he is. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's a mentalist, magician, illusionist, but very well trained and very knowledgeable about NLP and hypnosis. And there's a story that he tells about dealing with a highly agitated person. Specifically, he said this is how he makes sure to de-escalate things so that they don't turn physical. Mm-hmm. So he was telling a story about this drunk, belligerent man who confronted him outside of a bar. So, this guy's drunk, his friends are there, but, there's 3 of them, and this one guy is way drunker than the rest of them, but he's, coming at Darren and is he can see, the writing on the wall of where this is going to go. And so the guy comes up to him, and he's like, he's got that energy, he's got that intensity, something's going to happen. And he's been saying stuff at him. So what does he do? He matches his physiology, his tonality, his volume. He matches all of these different things, but he mismatches the content of his communication. So he gets into rapport with him in all these ways by yelling. And he goes... He says, the wall outside my apartment only goes halfway up. And the guy who's trying to pick a fight with him goes, what? And he then says it again, holds it, and goes, the wall outside of my apartment only goes halfway up. Now, at this point, you can't It's almost impossible for the person who was angry to stay angry because you didn't give them the response that they need. They can't maintain it on their own. It's like you pulled the rug out from under their emotional roller coaster. Like they're expecting a pre-written script. I say this, you say this, we escalate. I say this, you say this, we escalate. If you can interrupt that pattern, the other person like, ugh, and it feels almost like the floor drops out of it, or there's no wind in the sails anymore.
Absolutely.
It's an awesome, awesome way to handle it. And it seems like you basically did the same thing. Oh, it makes me wonder if you could have, it makes me wonder if it would have worked just as well to say something completely crazy and random as it would have worked. And I'm not even saying it would, because I'm gonna fucking kill you is a different kind of like attention grabber. Chandler used to do that kind of stuff all the time too.
Nice.
Morgan says, Morgan says, mine is the fish barks at midnight.
That's right. That's awesome.
I love it.
Right on. Corley's enjoying it. Thanks for joining us again, Corley. Hi.
I know, we got people. Adrianne, can we stop for a moment and just say, yay for people showing up. Last week we had two people, excuse me. And this week we've got at least 4, I don't even know, on Facebook, but this is so exciting. Like, I mean, let's keep this going. Like, this is an experiment, everybody. We're doing 4 of these. This is number 2. We're going to do 4 of these shows on Thursday morning, and we're going to see if this grows into something where you guys actually have questions, and this is valuable, but I love the hell out of this. So, all right. Speaking of questions, do we have any questions from people?
Oh, yeah, we'll check in. Well, Kimberly is mentioning how impressive it is that you can type while your hands are moving in the air.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Yeah. I actually have learned how to let my unconscious mind type for me while I'm using my hands. It's kind of a telekinetic thing.
Totally.
Coralie says, "Can I give feedback how this is so good?" Do you mean like to us? Sure. You can tell me how good I am.
Tell us how great we are. We should bring her on video if she's going to tell us how great we are. Okay.
Ted says there's a great one. There's a great one while I was at Master Prac, and Nicholas helped a woman release her phobia of moths. Moths. Do I remember moths? I remember spiders a couple times. I remember birds. That one was hilarious. I don't mean I was laughing at for anybody watching and doesn't understand what I meant by that. I'm not saying like, yeah, there was somebody, they had a phobia of birds. They're so crazy. There's a process that you learn at some schools in NLP that is called logical levels of therapy. And it's a way of using humor to scramble a pattern, and it works really well if you have a phobia where somebody has this just like uncontrollable response. Like every time they see a snake, there's a snake right behind me over here on my bookshelf. Every time they see a bird or a moth or whatever, they have this uncontrollable response. The way Tony Robbins used to describe this kind of pattern interrupt is he said, imagine you have a jukebox where you pull out a record that is like a program that you run in your unconscious, and you take it and you just scratch it up and then you put it back in. That record will never play the same way again. Logical levels is an amazing way to just take a pattern that somebody's running and be like, let's just not do that anymore.
That was my favorite. That was one of my favorite techniques. I helped someone who had a fear of elevators with that, and it's fun and playful, changing how they can do it. Kimberly's chiming in about my example earlier about the choice of words that I used when I was doing my pattern interrupting on the table. And I will say that was, I think I was 20 at the time. So I was utilizing the language I had.
Sure.
Techniques. I would choose new language now. I would have done the same physicality of shocking her and then said something potentially more loving. you know, because I'm older and I have new levels of flexibility. And it worked.
Well, okay, I'm going to devil's advocate and come to your defense a little bit here.
That's fair. Do it.
So, first of all, I already said that it's possible that nothing else would have grabbed her attention as well. And I'll also say that one of the things you can do, like the Darren Brown story is a good example of matching their physiology and tonality, etc., and then breaking rapport in the content and just being random, just being like a non sequitur. It's a complete pattern interrupt. But another way that you can do this that I've heard about is, and I've practiced a few times when I have my wits about me, is if you're in a fight with somebody, like imagine you're in a relationship and you're at that point where it's escalating and you're getting shouty with each other.
Right.
One of the things you can do is match the physiology and emotional experience the other person is having, but make the content loving. So you're arguing with somebody, you're going back and forth, and you go, God damn it, I fucking love you so much I can't even handle it. And they're like, I don't know how to respond to that.
Right.
Now, you could think about the same thing. What if you said, I'm going to fucking kill you, but you do it with a physiology that doesn't make sense.
Right.
So you do it while you're laughing, and you'd be like, hey, if you don't stop hiccuping, I am going to fucking kill you. The volume may be enough to be the pattern interrupt that gets them out of it, and then you could laugh while you're still saying it.
Yeah, and situationally, absolutely everyone else in the room was being loving and tender and in a particular way that wasn't working.
Right.
So I just needed to be the something different in the moment. So do you recall this phobia?
The moths?
Yeah.
I really do not. I remember, forgive me, Ted, I think I did a lot of phobia releases, so it's hard for me to remember all of them. But Ted's mentioning that I said something about envisioning the moths flying like the Blue Angels. I do kind of remember the Blue Angels thing. Yeah.
One of my favorites was the Allergy release where you brought in your own cat.
Oh my God, yes, that's one of my favorite stories. Hold on, it does look like we got a question submitted.
Yeah? Like in question area?
Oh yeah, no, it was just a comment. Bruce from Toronto.
Cool.
Okay, so hold on one sec.
All right. Bruce was saying that you met in Toronto in 2012. That's awesome. I don't know if Bruce is still here.
This is Pandora.
Hey, Pandora.
Say hello, kitty. She's a very sweet kitty, and she was sleeping just now. And one time, we had someone who had an allergy of cats. Now, I just remembered that was Chris.
Yeah.
Someone who was just in a class that I just finished up, an 8-week course that I was doing. I just remembered the person who we did this phobia release with was Chris. So anyway, I hadn't put those two together in a while. So he had this very severe phobia of cats. The way I remember it was that if he went, what?
Allergy. You just said phobia?
Sorry.
Allergy.
Yeah. Allergy of cats. Although some people say that an allergy is effectively a phobia of the immune system.
Absolutely.
Hold on one second. I got to fix my sound. Okay, there we go. Technical difficulties. Just making sure it's all set now. Okay, it is. So the way that I remember it is that if he went into a room where there was a cat, the cat's not even in there anymore. Within less than an hour, he's going to be having he had an inhaler, and it was severe, watering eyes, runny nose, sneezing. It was one of the more severe cat allergies that I've seen before.
Even talking about it even talking about his allergy, you could see his skin
Yes.
turn red, and he's starting to itch while he's telling the story.
Yeah. And I mean, if that's not an indication about how allergies work, that it's not the thing itself. If you can talk to someone about a thing they're allergic to and they can start to have a reaction, I do not understand how people can try to make a case that allergies are physical. I'm not saying that's not a component of it, but to say that that's where the root of it is, it doesn't make any sense to me. So anyway, we decided that we were going to do this this allergy release, and we wanted to have a good demonstration. And we love testing. So as soon as the demo started, Dr. Matt, my former NLP teacher, former boss, brought him up on stage and started doing the work. And I knew I didn't have a lot of time because Dr. Matt's a badass and he was going to get results quickly. So I immediately got in the car and drove to my apartment, which is only about 10 minutes away, and got Pandora. And she's a long-haired, very sheddy cat. And we brought her back to the hotel. And she was not particularly happy about this. She kind of thought that we were going to the vet or something. But so we take her there, and she's clinging to me like claws in my shoulder. And I was waiting for like a signal. I'm waiting for like the right words. So I come in the room and I walk in with the cat, and she there's like 55 people in the room or something all looking up, and she's like clinging to me. So I walked up, and at this point, this is like the make it or break it moment, right? You don't know. If you walk up to somebody who you're expecting not to have a phobic allergy response or phobic response, and they do, you got to be prepared to handle that, especially, in front of your entire class where all of them are there to be learning this. So there's an anxiety. There's this I trust this. I know we'll be able to figure it out if it doesn't work and all that.
Right.
But this time, I brought the cat up close to him. And remember, prior to this, he said that if the cat was even in the room, he would already start having the reaction. But I brought the cat up close to him, and he kind of inhaled just a little bit, didn't see any reaction, and then he buried his face and was like, and it was, he came out and he's smiling and he's like, nothing. I would probably have a runny nose at that point. And my favorite part of the story is that we heard a follow-up.
Yeah.
That, I can't remember if it was like a month or a couple of months later, he went and stayed at somebody's house who had dogs and cats living in the house. And he was like, I stayed there. I slept on the couch where the animals sleep. And he was like, nothing, totally gone. So that is definitely one of my favorite stories about the process of that.
It's fun too, because kitties are so soft. It makes it so memorable.
Yeah.
That someone would have a challenge. Some big, beautiful man would have a challenge with something tiny and floofy like that. And then we could help them. Our tools help giant men softly embrace floofy kitties. We have more questions. So we're about 40 minutes in today.
Okay, well, we were planning on going about 30 to 45 minutes, up to an hour if we get some good questions.
Yeah. Oh, she's curious what technique was used.
The technique he used is called is the standard allergy model, or it's a submodality allergy shift. So the way that it works, I can't go through the entire process.
It's in Master Prac.
It is in Master Prac. But it basically has to do with disassociating the person. So here's the theory. I can give you the theory behind it. So the theory is that if somebody has an allergy to something that is not there are allergies that are physical, okay? There are allergies that are psychosomatic. Most allergies are a combination of the two. And they get reinforced. Even if it started physical, you might no longer be physically allergic to the thing that you were allergic to then, but because of the psychosomatic response to it, the imaginary response to it, the emotional response to it, you're never going to be able to discover that. And on the flip side, even if you're still physically allergic to something, by dealing with the psychosomatic side of it, you can create a space where your body can actually start to heal the physiological response. It doesn't work 100% of the time. The rather informal research that I've seen done on it puts it about 85% success. So about 85% of people with allergies of some kind, and it works better with some allergies, works really well with like cats, dogs, grass, hay fever, hay season, dust, pollen, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Can work with some foods. I've seen that before, but you got to be real careful with that, because if the person is going to go into like full-blown anaphylactic shock, but I have heard stories about people who were like, they were allergic to bees, and it would throw them like all the way over the edge, and they have to have an EpiPen. And I've heard of at least one example that I know of somebody who got stung after doing it, had the EpiPen there, but didn't need it.
Right.
So think of it like a panic response, that you start to feel something like an itch in your nose, and then you get a panic about that itch in your nose, and then the itch gets worse, and then the panic gets worse, and the itch gets worse, and the panic gets worse, and the itch gets worse, and it spirals out of control. Now imagine that this is connected to probably some kind of significant emotional event. So like I remember, I think it was Dr. Matt's story about his own cat allergy, that his cat allergy happened only after their 3 pet cats all died in a very short period of time.
Yes.
Like all 3 of his childhood cats were like 1, 2, 3 got hit by cars, and then all of a sudden he's now allergic to cats.
I have friends with similar stories of traumatic events involving pets, or scientists when they were learning their techniques having to do with animals and dissection, suddenly now having allergy to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I could see that. That's a traumatic experience for many people. So the idea is, what is a phobia? A phobia is an overreaction to something that may be dangerous or may not be dangerous at all, but it is, you're reacting at a level that is not in response to what is actually happening. So if somebody sees a picture of a snake and has a phobic response, that's not proportional to what's going on. It is worthwhile to have a healthy respect for poisonous snakes particularly. Now, it is also possible to transcend that, and there is some value to learning how to do that too. There is a squidgy, creepy, crawly feeling that I think is inherent and innate in us when we hold a snake. I went and grabbed the cat. I could grab my snake right now.
I was thinking the same thing. You had that story about the party trick, or where you helped someone with a snake phobia and then brought your snake to the house or something like that.
She's
or maybe
sleeping
at your house.
That was actually a different story, but I mean, fuck it. I'll tell that story too. So we're talking about phobias, and then I'm going to cycle it back to allergies. So there's a woman that was in one of my very first Master Practitioner trainings, and she came to my apartment for a party. And I forgot that she had a phobia of snakes. And there's already a party going on. She walks in the house carrying a pie, and she looks around, she's smiling, she's happy, she's connecting with everybody, and then she looks across the room and sees a cage with this red light glowing in it, which is perfect. And you just see the color drop out of her face, and she's like, "Is that a snake?" And I immediately remember that she had this phobia. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Hold on, let me go. And she is like, I gotta get out of here. And like, you just see like fight or flight, right? Like she just didn't know, bye. Like there's no longer a rational, and we all have those. Yeah. We all have those things where things get triggered. I had an experience like that this morning. So anyway, she goes outside. I grab the cage and move it into the bedroom. And then I went outside and I'm like, hi, how you doing? Would you like to, like, are you, and she's like, I don't know if I can go. And I'm like, can I help you? Is that okay? And she knows my NLP background. She's in one of my classes, teaching at the time. So this was the very first time that I ever did a submodality phobia shift, which is something I'd never done before. I've done a lot now, but I'd never done it at that time. I'd only ever seen Richard Bandler do it. And I was like, why not try that one? And there's a lesson in there that a lot of times the best, most miraculous hypnotic and transformational experiences that you'll walk someone through will be things that you're not thinking about. You're trusting. Mm-hmm. You're out of the way, and you're letting the intuition and the line of direction kind of flow. And it is definitely a cooperative experience between you and the other person. So so the process is you ask the person, okay, so what do you feel right now? And she's like, fear, just panic, right? And I'm like, where? So you get her to associate it in her body, and they'll usually point. And then you presuppose that the feeling is moving, because it's true. Feelings you don't just get like happy, like a flat line, like it moves in your body. So she had this panic, this fear, and I was like, where is it moving? What direction is it spinning? Notice the linguistic presupposition. What direction is it spinning? And she said it's going like this way. And in that moment, like when somebody's not in it, they might argue with you. Mm-hmm. You might actually find somebody who's like, what do you mean it's spinning? Like, I don't know. And then you just got to kind of get in rapport and keep guiding them through it. But remember that when someone is deep in the shit, they're already in a trance. Yep. So many times I run into beginner students or advanced students who are good working with people when they're like calm, but they're scared of working with people when they're highly emotional or triggered or they've lost their shit. Those people are easier to deal with.
Absolutely.
Way easier, because they're not going to put up a fight. Like they will cling. You throw them a line or a life preserver, and they're just going to cling to it. So I said, what direction is it spinning? And she's like, this way, it's going this way. And I was like, okay, good. Here's what I want you to do. So we associate her into it, right? So then we disassociate it by having her bring it outside of her body. So I said, I want you to imagine that you bring it right out in front of you, and it's still spinning. So I'm like doing this with her, and I'm like, okay, so imagine it's right in front of you. It's still spinning in the same direction. Now, in a moment, I'm going to snap my fingers. And when I snap my fingers, it's going to reverse. It's going to go in the opposite direction. And I don't even tell her what that means. I don't have to say that it's going to mean something different. Her unconscious already knows. It's implied by the experience that if I feel the way that I do, and it is spinning in this way, having it spin in the, quote, opposite direction is going to result in some change, probably an opposite change in the feeling that I'm experiencing right now. That's why you don't have to explain it. You don't have to sit there and be like, here's how this works. Let me explain to you what a submodality is. So you have her bring it out, and so I snapped my fingers and I said, good, now it's going in the opposite direction. Have it go even faster. And now, by the way, I've learned since then from an amazing NLP teacher, a guy by the name of David Snyder, in very, very, very knowledgeable hypnotist, skilled. And one of the things that he adds to this is get them moving. So he'll have the person spin their hands
Nice.
Because the somatic experience is incorporated into it, and it changes it at a very, very profound level. So I would have done that then, but I didn't know, and it still worked. So anyway, you'd have them keep spinning this way, and then, okay, spin in the other direction. Now go even faster. Now go even faster. Go even faster. Now take it back inside and notice how you feel. And that was it. I just talked about it for 5 minutes, but the whole process took about a minute, maybe less.
Right.
And then she came back in the house, and I didn't have her go like hold the snake right then. But she came back in the house and she had the party, and she said it didn't bother her. And then actually later on, we ended up doing a past life process that helped her resolve the snake phobia completely.
Nice.
So tying that back to allergies. So a phobia is an overreaction to a stimulus. An allergy is an overreaction to an, let's call it, antigen. Mm-hmm. It's still an overreaction to a stimulus, but that way that I explained it, where it's like I'm panicking because I'm panicking, that is like a snake eating its own tail thing that spirals out of control. A lot of patterns that people have that they get stuck in are because we do that like ramping up thing in a bad way. You can do the same thing in a good way.
Absolutely. Cool. There are other fun strategies for allergy release that are based on the brain sends a chemical into the body, and the body has a particular response. So there's a trigger, and then there's a response. And so like acupuncture and there's some other modalities that do the same kind of thing of shifting the body's response to the trigger. Yeah. Changing the meaning.
Yeah.
Of the I don't know, the trigger, the impulse, the thing.
Well, and that's all dealing with it on the quote psychosomatic level. Let me clarify, just in case anybody's listening to this and is not clear. There is a physical world, at least as far as we can tell. There is a physical world. You have a physical body, and it does not work to say mind over matter. You have to be real about your physical body. And you also should be realistic about how much of your experience is dictated or influenced by your mind. They're both realities that are happening simultaneously. And people get into this argument about one or the other, and it's not. It's both and.
Nice. I think that's a sweet transition into the mind and the body, both. And you have two things going on in the world that maybe people who are on here want to know about. So,
yeah, and let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
So, okay, so first and foremost, for NLP people who are here on this call, or anybody watching on Facebook or watching later on Facebook, have you ever wanted a place where you could hone and master your skills of NLP? If you want to become an excellent martial artist, you got to go to the dojo. You got to practice it. You don't go take a 2-week-long crash course in jiu-jitsu and now you can actually use it. You have to practice it. You have to have a place where you can go and be challenged, and most important, get feedback on your blind spots and where things are not working, because there's something called the closed therapeutic loop. The closed loop of the therapeutic context is where somebody uses a technique and it works, and that validates that the technique works. But then another client comes in and you use the technique and it doesn't work. Well, it didn't work because you didn't believe hard enough. It didn't work because you didn't do it right. You didn't want it to work. That is the opposite of the scientific method. That is an unfalsifiable claim. There's no way for you to ever discover that the technique could be improved.
Right.
This is why, to me, iron sharpening iron is one of the most important things to be able to really master these tools, and to live NLP, to make it something that you live in your life. So I am right now putting together some small groups of master practitioners and trainers of NLP who want to meet on a regular basis with coaching and guidance to practice with other people and learn about their own blind spots and take their skills up to the next level. This is a program called Living NLP, and there's a whole bunch more information that you can get on this if you go to, what's the website?
nicholasrave.com/livingnlp.
Did we change it from Radical Self-Discipline?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so it's nicholasrave.com/livingnlp. If you go to that website, you can find out a bunch more information. And if you're interested, you can click on the button on there, on that website, and then put in an application. I'm very careful about making sure that these groups have the right people in them. So there is an application process. And if you're interested, you can apply, we can connect and find out if there's a group that I have that's forming right now that you might be a perfect fit for. So that's my first thing.
Your other thing's kind of cool to bring up because it's also related to people who learn these strategies and maybe they haven't practiced them or taken them to the next level, and what can happen there, the challenges.
Well, the next thing that I'm doing is for the next month or so, I'm going to be working on promoting a course that is about everything that I've learned in the last couple of years about the body side of the mind-body connection. And for me personally, this was the great multiplier of my skills and my results. I taught NLP for over 7 years. And during that time, I got great results with other people, but I never got the techniques of NLP or hypnosis to work with myself. And there was always a group of people that I couldn't help. Incidentally, they were people who had the same problem as me. And everything that I have learned that has helped me to finally be able to make the changes that I want for myself, and has also quadrupled the results that I've been able to get with other people, and frankly changed my life more than anything else I've learned, save maybe NLP. I'm going to be putting together in this program, and tonight I'm going to be talking about it in a webinar called How NLP Can Ruin Your Life, which is about my own harrowing experience of practicing NLP while being disconnected from my body, which is something that most people are not even aware is happening. So tonight at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, we're going to be doing a webinar called How NLP Can Ruin Your Life. And for the next few weeks, we're going to be doing a series of webinars. I think this is the plan anyway. Yeah. We're going to be doing a series of webinars talking about what I see as the central problem. I would say for anyone who doesn't feel like they're getting the results that they want with NLP or feels like there's more, but I would expand it beyond that and say I think it's really one of the central problems that we're dealing with in modern times right now. I think a huge part of what we're dealing with politically can be explained by this, and I think we have to solve it. I don't think there's anything more important for you personally as an individual, but I also don't think there's anything more that we can be doing to heal our country and the world right now than reconciling the relationship between the mind and the body, reconnecting them, and no longer having this split.
Absolutely. It's the core issue beneath more issues that we're experiencing as a culture.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a long comment here. I want to say, you read that. I want to say, for everyone who's come, we'll address this comment. Everyone who's come today, thanks for being here. Everybody who's watching this later, thank you. We've been at How to NLP Standing Up. We're going to take this last bit.
It's not a question. She's giving us a testimonial. So Cora Lee, thank you so much. That's really awesome. I mean, I can read it out loud. She said, want to acknowledge how effective what you do is. Since last week, I've had 2 major breakthroughs in making friends with my shadows. this is since the last talk that we did, where she was one of the people who was there, and I answered one of her questions, which is about integrating and dealing with the shadow. She said one of the breakthroughs was, I realized I have enough information to move out of the food issues. She said, I need to stop looking outside for help. I just need to put on my big girl pants and do it. Awesome. The other was, I learned I have a mistaken view of strength. I thought strength was an ugly, violent, painful thing. No wonder I did not want to use my great strength and power for myself. Wow, you're magnificent, Nicholas. She said Nick. I said Nicholas. This is so wonderful. You're so welcome, Corley. Thank you so much for the kind words. And I'm very, very happy that you got so much out of last week. I hope that whoever you are, that you are getting great value out of this week. And thank you for tolerating my voice. We will be back next week on Thursday at 11 a.m. We're going to do this at least 2 more times, and depending on how many people show up, and in particular, depending on how many people submit questions, either now or between now, or either between now and then, or show up and ask questions then. Also, if there's anybody watching that might be interested in actually doing some live processes, where you bring real problems to the table, hop on video, and then we actually do some work, that would be another really exciting thing I'd love to experiment with. So that's it. Anything else, Adrianne?
No, that's our show. That's our gig. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you all. I'm going to go rest my voice for a while.
Yeah, have an amazing day, everyone.
Have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.